the first petrol station I come into, and I follow a police car. So I'm just hanging off to the side for a moment. I'll let them leave before I go over there. Welcome to episode 46 of another little trip. On my motorcycle drive around the world, I've now made it to Fukuoka in the southwest corner of Japan. Because of some Japanese bureaucracy problems, I'm still without my bike, unfortunately. So I've taken a train from Tokyo southwest, visiting Hamamatsu, Osaka, Hiroshima, all the way to Fukuoka here. My motorcycle has been traveling here by truck, and I'm looking forward to receiving it in a couple of days. I'm also very lucky that my great friend Henry, who I worked with in Beijing many years ago, lives in Fukuoka. He's lived in Japan for many years and he knows the very best places to eat. The first is these riverside stalls. That night we also passed the interesting entertainment at the Ichiran ramen restaurant.
Those snakes I wonder why the snakes are the money ones.
The next day was a very different cultural experience. Henry lent me a bike and we cycled off around Fukuoka, first visiting this temple. One thing that Henry is clearly an expert in is Japanese drumming.
Dom! Dom! Dom!
Back on the bikes and we went to the beach and a wonderful sunset. Fukuoka port, and I'm going to meet my motorbike that's been on a truck from Tokyo for the last 9 days. The driver's already there. I'm a little bit late because his call didn't get through to me somehow. But I'm very close, just a few minutes away now. And then I've got to work out what to do. It looks very strongly like South Korea is not happening. I managed to find a customs place to message them, and they didn't explicitly say that Brazilian bikes can't go, but they did say that vehicles have to be registered in the 1949 Geneva Convention, very old favorite. So just looking around for anyone who might have a truck with a bike in. So check map, where am I going? Straight on. So I think that's it. So what next? Well, I've got to pay this driver now 65,000 yen. That's £325 or like $400 or something. I can't pay that again just to send it back to where it's been. So I have a plan. Is this really how my bike's been sent across the country? If you're watching him absolutely petrified that he's going to drop the bike, then just imagine how I was feeling.
It's so good to be back with the bike. A couple of things to sort out. Got to put the windscreen back on now and just check everything's all right. It'll be interesting when I try and start it, having not started it for 5 weeks. Although I think the truck guy did connect the battery because it was easier to get it on the truck sometimes, is what I was told. So get it connected. I'm not allowed to be in this car park, so I'm gonna find somewhere over there to leave it for a couple of days. It's Sunday today. Tuesday my plan is enacted but that means I need to leave it parked for a couple of days. So sort the bike out, go for a little drive to find where to park it. So bike starts, I had a check. There's a little bit of petrol in, so I was wondering whether I'd have to go and get some with my extra tank and bring it back, but I think there'll be enough to get to a petrol station. We'll be fine. I'm allowed to leave it in the port until Tuesday. This is the staff bike park, but I asked in information, they said it's fine. They seem quite friendly with bikes and motorbikes here, mopeds I should say. Big bikes, some parking place and the stuff restricted to just low capacity bikes, but they said it was fine. So a couple of days left in Fukuoka, and then Tuesday, that's when the plan goes into action.
But before the plan goes into action, there was time to watch another football game. This was between Avispa Fukuoka, who Henry goes to watch quite often, against Shonan Bellmare. Unfortunately, this turned out to be the wettest football match I have ever watched. Non-stop rain from start to finish. It did not help the quality of the match. Neither team had much to play for, being near the end of the season, and the final score was 1-0 to Avispa with a 93rd minute penalty. Not the greatest game ever.
I think we need a recap of what's been going on. It's been complicated. So, end of September, I arrived in Tokyo, having flown my bike and myself from Vancouver. And then when I was doing all the custom stuff, I discovered I can't drive my bike in Japan. Go back to the previous episode if you want to know the details, but I'm not allowed to drive my bike because it's Brazilian. It's the short version. So plan B was transport my bike on a little truck to the southwest corner of Japan so that I could put it on a ferry, get it to South Korea, and spend the month that I had planned to in South Korea driving around. But when I tried to book the ferry to South Korea, before I'd even reserved, they contacted Korea Customs and they said, I can't drive my bike in Korea either because it's Brazilian. Now we're on plan C or D or something. I've got my bike and I need to get it now to Thailand. That was going to be the next stop after South Korea, so we're skipping out South Korea completely. I need to fly it and myself to Thailand, but I'm in the southwest corner and I don't think like air freight from here is particularly big. So I want to get it to, well, either Osaka or Tokyo. The shipping company, air freight company, has said that those two are the best. So, do I want to pay another 65,000 yen, 325 pounds, to put it on a little truck to get it back to Osaka again? No, not really. That's a crazy amount of money to spend again. So the plan is to drive my bike in Japan. Yes, this is technically illegal. Not me doing the driving part, it's the bike is not allowed to be on the road. So yes, not strictly allowed, but so few people have actually known this rule that even someone important in Japan, I don't really want to say their name, said that if it was me, I would drive it. Because number one, very unlikely to be stopped by the police. Number two, even if I do get stopped by the police, they're not going to know this rule. So I'm most likely going to be fine. Most likely. So I'm going to drive around the island that I'm on at the moment, Kyushu. I'm going to head northeast a little bit, go to Shikoku Island, and then probably Osaka, maybe Tokyo, as I'm getting drowned out by the big truck behind me.
And so off I set, so excited to be driving in Japan, exactly what I'd planned all this time, but also quite worried about meeting any police.
Well, this is just hilarious. The first petrol station I come into, which I had to because I had to drain the tank when I flew it, so it's got hardly anything in it, and I follow a police car into the petrol station. So I'm just hanging off to the side for a moment before I go over there. I'll let them leave before I go over there. But perfect.
The police car drove off without paying me any attention. I filled up and away I went, driving through the city, out into the countryside. What a feeling it was. Japan is very strict with its speed limits. Even on these main roads in rural areas, the speed limit is only 50 kilometers an hour. So it is difficult to cover a lot of ground, but right now all I want to do is just enjoy the incredible drive. However, as it got dark, I realized there was a problem.
Well, that was a crazy day. The drive out of Fukuoka after the petrol station was fine. But then when I left the city, got into the countryside, and it was great. That is exactly what I'd been imagining this drive would be in Japan. It was so great in the countryside. But I left way later than I had planned today. So then it started getting dark, and I put my lights on. No lights. Way back, months ago, my main bike light stopped working, but I had bought auxiliary lights in Colombia. When was that? Months ago. So I'd been using those and that'd been fine, and they worked the last time I drove my bike in Canada 6 weeks ago. So looking at them now and wondering why they're not working. So what am I going to do? Like, you know, I'm not going to find a bike shop at this time, but I got my head torch from my camping and strapped it around the grill of my light. So I mean, it's very bright. But tomorrow I'm going to be going to get my lights fixed. I'm at a lovely Suzuki garage, and a lovely guy somewhere in there is helping me with the lights. I had to take the seat off. Not quite sure what's happened exactly, but when the bike was flown from Canada, I had to disconnect the battery. I did that. But when it was transported from Tokyo to Fukuoka, the guy said he had to connect the battery again so that he could, it was easier to get up onto the bike. But I think he just didn't reconnect the lights, my auxiliary lights, cable back up. So when we opened up the seat to look at the battery and the fuses, there was this loose wire, and connecting it again, my auxiliary lights work again. He said that fixing the actual headlights is not a quick fix, is what Google Translate said for us anyway. So I'm just happy if the auxiliary lights work, because I went through a couple of tunnels earlier. That was not fun.
And after a little bit of tidying up my cables, with no charge of course, I was on my way again. On quiet roads through little towns, past the fields. If you're a fan of Studio Ghibli films, as I am, it felt like I was stepping into one of these films. Again, this is exactly what I had been dreaming of. All was now going well. Until another problem came along.
So a lot of oil's come out. It's on my boots, on my trousers. Meanwhile, there's like burning oil all around. I have to think of something.